This paper uses an animal model to show that COVID infections can occur through the eyes. While the animal study was small, it was very thorough. Two rhesus macaques were inoculated through the eyes, the conjunctiva. One was inoculated intratracheally in the throat, and two were inoculated intragastrically. And they had many interesting findings in this study. The first one being that viral RNA was detected in anal swabs from only the intratracheal inoculated group. This could imply that if COVID is consumed orally, then that might be more likely to show up in your stool. And then viral RNA was undetectable in tested swabs and tissues after intragastric inoculation. So that would be when you're injecting COVID straight into the stomach, which could imply that while we know that COVID survives passage through the stomach, it might need to inoculate elsewhere prior to passage through the stomach, meaning it has to be phased, like starting in the throat, going to through the stomach, and then into the digestive tract. And then, more relevantly to the topic, the conjunctively infected animals, the ones that were infected through the eyes, they had a higher viral load in the nasolacrimal system, which is this system right here, than the intratracheally infected animals, but they also showed mild interstitial pneumonia, suggesting distinct virus distributions, meaning depending on if you were infected through the eyes or through the throat, you're going to have different systems being impacted by that. But ultimately, the study shows that infection via the conjunctival route is possible in non human primates. Now, let's dive in. So, even back in 2020, we had COVID patients that were having eye symptoms, where a previous report had demonstrated that among 38 patients with clinically confirmed COVID, 12 of those patients had ocular manifestations consistent with conjunctivitis. Where another study reported a case of a clinician infected with COVID while working with a patient under all safeguards except for eye protection. So, again, there were five monkeys. Two were inoculated through the eyes, one through the throat, and two through the stomach. The scientists then observed these monkeys for clinical signs like change in body weight, temperature, etc., where they did routine nasal and throat swabs at days 0, 1, 3, 5, and 7 post inoculation. And this was in addition to anal and conjunctival swabs, so swabs through the eyes and the butt. So, five monkeys were inoculated, and then on day 7, three of them were euthanized, one from each group, where they then performed CT scans and histology on the samples. That's how they were able to show that if you get infected through the eyes or through the throat, that you're going to have a different distribution of COVID within your body. Where for the conjunctiva of the eyes, this was primarily the nasolacrimal and ocular systems, such as the lacrimal gland, the optic nerve, and the conjunctiva. While for those inoculated through the throat, it was different, where some of the highest focus was in the mandibular lymph nodes, the tonsils, and different sections of the intestines. Ultimately, this is really good evidence that you can get infected with COVID through the eyes. This is a viable portal of viral transmission. And again, this is something that's been known since 2020, emphasizing the need for both awareness that you can get infected with COVID through your eyes, and that healthcare professionals in close contact with patients and individuals like the public in crowded places should probably utilize some sort of eye protection.